Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Use that promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Corey Freedman, Cody Delmendo. We're all in the house. We got 4 wide today and a lot of green. Got the 120 hat, got the 120 sweatshirt. I just don't have the logo. Get the right color. And we finally made it on at 120 today.
Yeah, big time.
No tardiness. First pitch. Thank you.
Was that uniform description sponsored by Benjamin Moore? Or?
No, it was not as
free ads,
descriptive
folks.
as,
Was there a White Claw, the wave?
Live your wave.
Live your wave.
Luke is living his wave. Yeah.
Luke is always living his wave. Whenever when Stucky gets on his little trend of Stuckisms, as in whether it's having issues with technology or classic get off my lawn reasons, that's when he is living his wave. And if only he's holding a White Claw at the same time, no free ads.
I've never had a White Claw.
Okay, well,
Pat
now
Hughes
I don't
is
know
very
what to say.
disappointed.
Yeah, Pat Hughes is upset.
I know. Corey Freedman in the sporty baseball cap with the green bill and the white piping.
There we go.
That's what you love
Bent
to hear.
brim.
Right there.
Down to the piping.
So we're going to do more grades today, right? We're going to continue our grading. Today we'll have another position player, and another pitcher. But we're going to start. Let's talk about what happened so far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Starting yesterday. I mean, to me, the one is the Mariners-Astros game was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, was unbelievable to me was I picked Justin Verlander as my pitcher for playoff. Who you got?
Ooh, I forgot
and
about
he got 4 earned runs yesterday. There's still plenty of time for him to turn things around. He could throw a perfect game next time.
My guy had one great start.
I don't even remember who I picked.
I don't remember who you picked.
You're winning. Don't worry.
I have DeGrom.
You're winning, Luke.
Here, do we have the picks?
He did have a great start.
Somewhere?
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Anyway, but yeah, no, that was. I mean, it felt like the Mariners had it, and the Astros are like my pick to win the World Series. It's not like a.
Yeah.
It's not like a bold prediction, but I was like, they are the best team in the AL. I think they were the best team in the majors. Their pitching staffs are really, really good. So to see Justin Verlander get kind of blown up early on, did he end up with 6 earned runs?
6 earned runs in 4 innings, I think.
Yeah. That was crazy. But then, I mean, they held it in check, and then Yordan Alvarez, who's one of Joey's picks, that walk-off 3-run home run. I mean, Yordan Alvarez is really, really good. And
Joey.
But he also has Max Scherzer.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
he has
DJ
DJ
LeMahieu is
LeMahieu.
out for this series.
Right.
Oh, Joey.
And I don't know what Mookie Betts did last night, but...
Well, yeah, your Verlander's not doing well.
Castellanos
You did get
had
a
an
home run
RBI
from
last
this.
Castellanos had 3 hits.
Shane
an RBI,
Bieber was
and,
very good in the wild card
Yeah,
round.
but he picked Shane Bieber after Bieber had already
That's
pitched.
right.
So,
No, it counts.
I mean, it counts, but it's also like you got to
That
wait
was the reasoning for picking him. I was
wait.
like, well, I don't know how far I don't know if he might not even pitch again.
Ryan-
but
Ryan-
at least I took a win.
Ryan
wait a
tried
little
to
bit.
keep Luke and I away for this exact purpose,
We
but
should've-
it's
we
not.
should've-
That was
I'm just
the strategy.
happy. I'm just hoping that 2 of my guys were gonna get me to the World Series.
Yeah, that's fair. Rizzo and
2 of mine are already out.
Rizzo and Machado have both homered in the playoffs, so
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good. Verlander will bounce back.
So here's what happened with the Alvarez home run. I'm holding my son. He's kind of hungry for dinner, right, type thing. And I'm like, you want to watch some baseball? Never really done this before. He's like, okay. I point him to the big screen TV on the wall, and I'm like, okay, this guy's going to throw the ball, and he's going to try and hit it with the bat. The first pitch of baseball he ever saw in his life, Alvarez home run. How crazy is that?
That's pretty wild.
If he has that expectation for the rest of his life on baseball, he's going to be real disappointed.
And the fact that he's growing
He's got
up
a lot of
Cubs fan.
pain coming.
Yeah, right,
The fact
exactly.
that he's growing up a Cubs fan, he may have suffered
Yeah.
a lot more disappointment.
Well,
than-
that was
than normal.
a really interesting decision from Scott Service
Huge,
to
right?
bring
Goes
in
to
Robbie Ray. Yeah, I mean, I know that was one of those where, like, I didn't think Yordan was going to do that, but, like, you're like, I don't know about this, right? Like, I don't think he was great in that wild card start, and, you know, now he's coming out to pitch to one of the best hitters in the game with the game on the line. Like, I
got big John Lackey 2017 vibes when it happened.
Maybe not as bad of a decision, but yeah.
Well, yeah, not nearly as bad because John Lackey was, like, on his last leg. And
right.
But it was something they planned out, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Dusty defended it. That's his former player on the other side.
I mean, he hit the I mean, what a bomb.
What is up with the managers wanting to put in their like a starter to close a game?
Well, I tell you who it worked for.
It's a brand new game, man.
2003, it worked pretty well for the Marlins against the Cubs.
Sure.
I guess it worked for the 2018 Red Sox too.
Worked for the 01 Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, John Lester was good in Game 7 of the 2016
World Series. 01 Diamondbacks.
It does work, but that's just
such
a tough spot for Robbie Ray, though. Like,
yeah,
one of the best hitters in the league, game on the line. Like, that
I read a tweet that said
very tough spot.
I read a tweet that said that him against lefties this year, he'd been given. I mean, he already gave up a ton of home runs this year, like 30 of them. And then, like, even against lefties, he'd given up 4 or 5. So, like,
it's also like, I mean, I don't know that I've checked. Well, I haven't checked Yordan Alvarez's splits, but like, he strikes me as a hitter that can hit against anyone regardless of who, you know, how they pitch, like right-handed, left-handed, whatever. Like, he's just a really good overall hitter. Like so saying like a lefty on lefty matchup, but just like for a guy like that, does it really move the needle that much? Like, he's a guy, he has a great bat.
I mean, they're not the same hitter, but it did remind me kind of, because like teams used to do that against Anthony Rizzo. And he would hit homers off of lefties, but they would make a big thing about making those changes. And it would be like, I don't think this is worth the time. He can still homer off this guy. But
speaking of him, I'm just going to put it on record that I'm rooting for him to play good, but I don't know if I can deal with him winning a World Series with another team. I don't think I can do it.
You can't do it?
I can't do it. I mean, it's already – I think it might be because he's on the Yankees, but, like, I just – again, I want him to play well. I'm, you know, I sent the old classic tear coming from the eye emoji from CHGO Cubs Twitter account last night on the MLB tweet that showed him hitting that homer.
But it was a real tear from you, actually.
It was a little bit of a tear, yeah. I mean, I want the guy to do well. He deserves a nice contract after this year. We can sit here and argue some more about whether the Cubs fucked that up or not, but just as a player and a fan of him that we all have always been, like, I'm rooting for him to play well. I just, like, I can't take him winning another World Series in another uniform. Maybe that's selfish of me. It is pretty selfish of me, but like I want people to remember Anthony Rizzo as World Series champion with the Chicago Cubs, and that's it.
Yeah, you don't want people from now on thinking, "Hell, he was a Yankee.
Right.
Didn't he play for the Cubs too?"
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't take that.
I play with the
just
Cubs
like we do now. Like Padre, he's really a Padre, right?
Yeah. I'm definitely rooting for him to do well. I don't hate the Yankees as much as a lot of people because I work there, so I tend to root for them. I do agree with Cody, though. I will say, as long as, even if they win, as long as he doesn't like look in the camera and say, because they'll ask him, how does this compare to the first ringer? As long as he doesn't say, actually, this one means more to me.
Well, he's going
fine,
to if he's asked. Like, he's going to. He's not going to say, the
we
Cubs
can say
one was
they're
actually
different.
better.
You know what I mean? Like, just as long as he doesn't say anything like that, they can go ahead and win. I will say, like, I try to watch all that and root for him. Like watching him hit a homer in the playoffs, and it was one of those classic Rizzo, like lean back because he got it. The tear Cody sent from the CHGO Cubs Twitter account was representative, I think, of a lot of people, me and Cody included.
It's just, man, like the more time has gone on, and the more that we know what we know now, I think about it at least once a week. It's like he's the one. Like he is the one. Like
he's the one that hurts the most now.
I agree.
Because Bryant is hurt, or
in the moment, I was always like KB forever. Like we needed him to be a Cub forever because he was the better player. But now that time has passed, and it really has nothing to do with the fact that Chris Bryant was hurt all year. It's Rizzo just meant more to this fan base than any of the rest of them.
I agree.
And like whether he was struggling last year or not, you always were down to go to war with that guy. and he did so much for this organization, and it just, to me, it hurts more now than it did the day they traded him.
Well, he was one of the first pieces of the young guys, right? Like once they traded Cashner for him and they brought him up, like he was the first. He got there before Bryant.
Right.
So he was the guy.
Yeah,
and just like watching yesterday too, like there's so much you see it on social media and even during the broadcast, like Yankee fans and their media seeing all of what we saw in Rizzo, right? Because not only did he hit a huge home run in the game yesterday, he also made a couple of really nice, savvy defensive plays. I know there was one he turned, I think, a double play with a guy in a rundown, like just doing Anthony Rizzo stuff.
Yeah,
and it did. I was always the better player long term is going to be Bryant, right? At the moment, I'll eat crow on that. It doesn't seem to be correct. But watching him, especially in the playoffs, especially for a team like the Yankees, and everybody's going, "Wow, this Rizzo was the missing piece. Look at all these intangibles he brings." It does make me very sad. He deserves better than to have been rotting away on the 2022 Cubs.
Yeah.
But I wish that he were rotting away on the 2022.
But he still could be. What if he was on the 2023 Cubs and platooning with Mervis?
I'm interested.
Don't let me talk myself into it.
Cody
I dreamed
and I are
about it last night.
long since.
I dreamed about it a little bit last night. Doesn't really make a lot of sense because they're both left-handed. But when there's a DH, there's a possibility, folks. Like, I think he would be a great mentor for a guy like Mervis.
It's like that the Scottie Pippen gif. Where he points to the shoe, Anthony, come home.
Come on.
Come home, Anthony.
Come home, Anthony. Yeah, I mean, we can dream. I don't think it's going to happen.
They're not going to let him go, I bet. Even if he opts out, he's going to stay there.
You think they'll show out all that money for Judge and Rizzo?
I just think he's
exactly
the type of guy they want.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the Yankees haven't been.
If they want to,
in
they will.
In recent years, the Yankees haven't been shelling out money the way the Yankees have most of our lives.
I mean, they paid Garrett Cole a ton of
Garrett
money.
Cole, one guy.
Well, this is the offseason. They're gonna give Judge the contract that he wants.
they got to.
They're the New York
Judge
Yankees.
sure.
They can if
They
they
didn't
want
trade
to.
for Soto. And I'm just saying. I think they're going to pay Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge is going to be a ton of money.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, the Cubs aren't bringing him back.
You're right.
No, it's not. It's not gonna happen.
You're right.
I don't think there's any chance. On the flip side of it, so that gave you the sad feels.
Yeah.
But Trey Turner also hit a home run and had a double for the Dodgers.
Yep.
Did that give you the Tingley's what ifs?
I don't like the Dodgers, but I do like Trey Turner.
He's really
and
good.
I'm very intrigued by that whole thing. And they turned a double play late in that game, started by a better play by Gavin Lux, but he threw to Turner, and like just watching it, you're thinking like, okay, him and Nico Horner up the middle, like I'm very interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, because he hit the home run in the first inning, right?
Yeah.
Like he was just
He
right
almost
away.
had another one late.
Yeah,
in the game, too.
Yeah.
It was right hit off the wall, but it's like you see that right all the way, and you're like, oh man, he's building up his value for this offseason. Like he's probably gonna cost a little bit more than probably we were all expecting that.
So if
going into this postseason,
if they're getting one of those guys, Ryan, do you want to, as a Cubs fan, should you be rooting for these guys to stink in the offseason, or do you want to see them be good? So you're like, well, see, he's worth it. Now they're gonna be more inclined to go spend the cash.
Yeah.
Or would you rather have the guy go 0 for the offseason and be like, well, he's devalued himself. Now we can get a bargain on him.
no, I think you want to see these guys do well.
Yeah, I do too.
Like,
Agreed.
like it's just if a guy goes 0 for an entire postseason, especially a guy like Trey Turner, who's maybe at the top of that list, then you're just like, well, this guy can't perform in the playoffs. What good is he gonna do, right?
Well, and that would be the funny thing, because so many fans complain about the Cubs not spending money, and then they would, and then that's what some of them would say. He just went over in the playoffs. Why'd you spend $400 million on this guy?
The guy that couldn't get a hit all postseason?
Right.
It's like same thing with Stroman.
The Dodgers didn't want this guy. Why
It's
do
like
we
the
want
same-
this guy?
Like it's literally my mentions on Twitter about Marcus Stroman for the last this entire summer. It's actually kind of funny.
By the way, how about Kimbrel doesn't make the Dodgers postseason roster for the series? Chris Martin does and gets the save.
I think the Cubs
There's
won
a
the
lot
trade.
of former Cubs in these playoffs.
Yeah, sounds like the Cubs won the trade. The Craig Kimbrel trade. Like he
We need
Already
one of those
say
guys
that.
to show up on the field next year, and then I think they win the trade.
Either
I
way,
think either way, like you gave up a guy who's like a year later, not even in a playoff roster for two guys who are young and I mean, I guess you hope have bright futures ahead of them, but at least they're young and they're not gonna
Yeah.
You know, if Cody Hoyer can recover well, I remember talking to him, and he said maybe June or July is kind of like that target date for when he'd come back. Madrigal, you want to see healthy, and he's talked about changing the way he does things this offseason to help him get through the grind better. So, hey, man, if they play next year, I guess then you think, oh, yeah, they won the trade, because a year later, Craig Kimball's not in the Sox, and he's not on the Dodgers playoff roster.
I mean, even that second half from Cody Hoyer in 2021
was impressive.
A.J. Pollock was probably the most valuable of anybody moved for Kimbrel, right? For
probably.
The Sox this year, I think.
Over the two trades.
But Cody Hoyer in 2021 was not bad.
He was good.
He was good.
Cubs,
and for how young he is, that you'll take that if he can get healthy.
I mean, he hasn't pitched. I mean, he won't pitch for over a year by the time he does come back, but he's still getting talked about as like, this guy could be a good back end of the bullpen guy. Like, he could be the closer. Like, but I think that's remains to be seen with Cody. But you want to believe it, I guess. Like like you said, he was impressive in a Cubs uniform. He's young. Like, if he can match up, he's probably never going to be a Craig Kimbrel type closer. But if he's a guy, one of the guys you rely on in the back end of the bullpen to just
what we've
shut
seen
teams
from
down.
the Cubs pitching development, I think he's one of those guys you can think, okay, if he can be healthy, they can definitely turn him into a pretty solid high leverage reliever.
If they can turn Brandon Hughes from an outfielder into a back end bullpen guy 3 years later, I think they can do the same with Cody Hoyer.
Right.
What about Kimbrel? So he's not good enough to be on their roster for this series. His name has come up on this podcast before as a guy like, I'd take him back next year. Would just as a piece?
Corey's
just shaking his head. Absolutely no. He's totally wiped, and you don't want him, even if he comes at the price of like a Snickers bar.
I don't know if he's totally wiped. I just don't want to deal with it again.
You don't want want the hanging arm.
It was such an up and down thing. Like I just think they can just try something else.
I think he would be the best flyer that they could take on. Because I think the way that the pitching, not only on the minor league infrastructure, but on the major league team, what they've emphasized a lot when talking to people like Ryan is that they're just trying to take these guys and put them in the best position for them to succeed, and they tell them what they do best. And, yeah, the start of Kimbrel's tenure with the Cubs the first time wasn't great. He was also getting paid $15 million a year. The way that things went with the White Sox and with the Dodgers this year, I think you can get him significantly cheaper next year. I don't even think you have to pay him $10 million next year, in my opinion. I mean,
I wouldn't give him $10 million.
I wouldn't give him $10 million, right? Like $5 million, okay, for the Cubs, that's not bad. Like a 1 year, 5 year, or 1 year, 3, whatever. Like between, I'd go up to 5 just based off the experience, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. But like, again, as a flyer, like someone like a David Robertson. Except going into a season with a little bit higher expectations, that could turn huge gold. I think he brings a lot of great experience, and he can really help a lot of the young pitchers. I'm not against it, but it can't be like your best reliever that you get in the offseason. I think the Cubs need to go get at least 2 relievers to go with the guys that they have that are vets. And because they have a lot of young guys in that bullpen, I think you need a few. I think you need 1 or 2 relievers that can go in and kind of groom those guys. And like, I'm not even like worried about who they go get. Like, it's a weird feeling, but like, I'm not even worried about who they go get because they've proven over the last 3-4 years now that they can take these random dudes that we've never heard of, bring them in, and they've been able to flip them for significant value. Now, if you have a winning team and bring those types of guys in, then they can be a significant part of a winning ball club. You know what I mean? So, again, Kimbrel, he would be the highest flyer I would take.
Corey's still a no.
No, in that context that Cody laid out, fine.
Yeah, I just $2 million. Why not try?
Right? Why not?
I say Jesse Chavez. Do it a third time. What the heck? You know, and then trade
so
him.
He can end up back on the Braves again.
He's got to go to some other team so he can rack up the entire league.
3 weeks into the season, then you trade him again.
Well, and I mean, we're talking about relievers, but like, have you ever related more to somebody that's a professional athlete than David Robertson? He misses that game because he was celebrating beating the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's true.
I was like, this is Cody if he was a professional athlete.
I didn't even realize like that was it, but no, I didn't think about it that way. Man, me and David Robertson need to
It's like your soulmate or something.
we need to have a beer at a bar or something like
Missing
that.
another playoff game because you were so excited to beat the Cardinals. So this is extreme Cody energy.
Cody comes in limping. What's wrong? Hamstring. I jumped off the couch celebrating a Pujols strikeout.
Yeah, man. When Yachty freaking struck out on that last at bat in game 1, man, I just I hurt the lower part of my back because I swung really high and yelled "fuck you" at the screen really loud. Oh, yeah.
We had Pierce Johnson in there for the Padres too, another
Cubs
former
legend.
Cub.
Oh, yeah.
They're all over the place.
Yeah. They are all over the place.
I see the chat. Michael Collada's there. He's saying they're not going to outbid the Dodgers, not even for Kimbrel.
Not surprising.
I don't know if that'd be a bidding war, though. I don't think
Doubt it.
trying to get Kimbrel in the offseason is going to be a bidding war for anybody. But it is hard to find a veteran reliever, and I've seen worse guys than Craig Kimbrel given deals in the offseason. You're like, what?
Sure,
He got what? So we'll see. Cody, what about your bets coming up? We got the Bears game coming soon.
Oh, yeah. We got CHGO Bets Daily today, too, which I'm excited to do. We're going to talk, I think, a little NBA futures, maybe the NHL because the Blackhawks kick off their season tonight. There's college football tonight. We got Fun Belt tonight. I mean, this is just electric stuff, folks. This is what I live for. I live for mid-July 120 Fridays, but I also live for just every sport to gamble on when the Cubs are not playing. So, yeah, I don't know how else to say it, but anyway, I have so many bets on PointsBet pending right now. I don't have a problem, but I'm just letting you know. And this football season, PointsBet is bringing you a better way to bet live on games, which means before this ad is over, you can place a live same-game parlay. Bet the next drive to be a touchdown, cash out your live second-half over bet. With PointsBet, you have access to more live football markets than ever before. Build the perfect live same-game parlay by combining your favorite bets anytime during the game, including spreads, totals, player props, and more. Choose the outcome of the next drive and next points with PointsBet Lightning Bets. So whether you are on the move or on the couch, do it live on PointsBet. Download the PointsBet app today and sign up with code CHGO to get your first 2 bets risk-free up to $2,000. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services.
Pins and Ace is the official golf apparel partner of CHGO. We love our Pins and Aces gear. Get tons of compliments on and off the course. A family-owned golf and apparel business. They make amazing polos, hats, golf bags, even our favorite beer sleeve, an innovative product that allows you to store 7 beers right inside your golf bag and keep your drinks cold the entire round. Check out pinsandaces.com. Use the code CHGO to get 15% off your first order and get free shipping. That's pinsandaces.com. Cody, I wonder if you're taking the scooter here in the wintertime, if you could stack 6 hot chocolates in there so that you could stop, have a hot chocolate. Maybe
that's actually a really good idea. That's a really good idea. Will I be riding the scooter here in the winter? Probably not. Probably, especially on days when Corey comes in, I'll be like, hey, you want to meet on the red line? Let's sit and talk to each other. That way I don't have to stand on this long ride by myself.
Ski goggles. We get you some CHGO ski goggles. Yeah. You ride that baby.
I'm already
you got the hot chocolate sleeve.
I mean, I've been lucky this week. My girlfriend borrowed her parents' car because I went to Champaign this past weekend, and so she needed a car, 96. So she borrowed it on Saturday, and she's had it since, and she's finally taken it back today. So I've actually had the car the last 2 days to be able to drive here, which is clutch because the weather in Chicago the last couple of days has not been great.
No, it's officially fall.
Yeah. So all these rainy days, it's not good for scooter rides. So
it's a shame.
And never forget that one day I came in here soaked. That was brutal, just brutal.
Glenn is in with Cody. He says, coming back to Chicago might give Kimbrel the spark he needs. He will feel wanted. Everybody wants to feel wanted, even Wilson Contreras.
Well, they have that reputation that the relievers have talked about too, right? That they really, I don't know what the exact words are, but a lot of relievers that have came through, it's spreading around the league to other relievers that the Cubs are really helping other relievers. I mean, we've seen not only has Kimbrel came and gone and not had success, but even Ryan Herrera, I feel is he was good with the White Sox, but I don't think he was that great with the Angels this year. Chafin goes to the Tigers. I don't know. You know, we've seen other guys come and go, and like things have trended down for some of them. And you know, I just think there's something about the pitching coach Hodavi and all of those guys that just somehow bring out the best in the arms that they bring in.
It was Robertson and I think Michael Givens over this summer who talked about like why they signed with the Cubs and the reputation they had, and you know, clearly that was something that was understood around the league, that this was a good place to go to kind of like get your career back and all that other stuff. So if they want to do Kimbrel, fine. I didn't really enjoy the ride the first time, but if he's cheap,
I didn't either.
Sure. But, you know, like Cody said earlier, I just trust them. They have a lot of interesting young pieces that they can try, maybe bring some guys up, elevate them. You know, obviously Brandon Hughes is one of them that we saw this year. Sign some exactly like those types, David Robertson, Michael Givens type that have had success, pitched in high leverage before. The bullpen will be something they solve pretty easily. I mean, I have no doubt about that. It was a roller coaster in the second half, but I mean, even the job that they did in the second half after trading away your 4 best relievers, like the overall numbers may not have been great because you were trying.
There was a rough stretch at the
and you were trying so many guys out, but like the fact that you saw individual successes in the amount that they did is really impressive. I mean, replacing your 4 highest leverage relievers and just moving everybody up, like that's not easy to do.
You know, like Brandon Hughes, who I've already mentioned on the show, comes up in May, debuts, had been an outfielder 3 years prior, and then by the end of the season, he's like essentially the closer on the team. Like that's
like going into the offseason right now, he's your highest leverage reliever, right?
I think that's why you don't really worry about what the Cubs are going to do with the bullpen, because the last couple of years, 3 years, whatever it is, have kind of showed you that they'll figure it out.
Right.
That's why you don't overspend for Timmy Trumpet this offseason.
Absolutely.
You know, like
don't do stuff like that.
I will be angry if they sign Edwin Diaz.
No.
I will be angry.
But that would be a pretty good vibe if they stole that trumpet music.
Take all my vibes out. Use Delmetrics only.
If the Cubs brought in a closer in a game they were losing before they got eliminated with a trumpet on the field, we would never hear the end of it.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Ever.
The trolling on the internet would be awful if
add it to the litany of things that Chicago sports fans never hear the end of. That would be almost at the top of the list, I think.
All right, let's get to our grading. Should we start with the offensive player, Patrick Wisdom?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go report. Yesterday, who did we do yesterday?
Nico.
Horner and Steele?
Nico and Steele, yeah.
All right, today we're going Wisdom and Smyly. We'll start with Wisdom
before
first.
We do that.
Yeah.
Corey, do you have a grade for Horner and
you want to give an overall grade?
Yeah, an overall grade on Horner.
What would you give? What would you give
Steele.
Nico for the season if you had to combine offense, defense, and everything else in between to get your overall grade?
Well, so we talked about this before, kind of grading relative to like the entire league.
Right.
You know, Nico for me is probably like an A-, maybe, probably closer to an A. Justin Steele, I would say, is probably about the same, honestly. Again, like, you know, relative to the league, it gets kind of hard because I guess like an A or an A+ is somebody that's winning the Cy Young, which isn't really where Steele was. But factoring in his expectations coming into the year, even the uncertain role to a degree, and the fact that he really nearly almost made it through this whole season healthy and really good, like dominant through the whole thing. Yeah. I feel pretty comfortable with that. And like, you know, Nico was what, a 4-win player? Like, yeah, that's fine.
And you don't have to compare him to the league, right? You could do it however you
however you want to grade him. I went more on like I guess I did compare at least Nico to the rest of the league, considering he was arguably one of the best shortstops in the majors all season. Proved that, but that is also I put that in relative terms to like where I expected. Did I expect him to be one of the best shortstops in the majors this season? No. So that just like kind of boosted it even further. But
he gets bonus points for that. When we get to Morel, is Morel going to get a big boost because he came out of nowhere? Yes, but you also at some point have to compare him to other guys in the league, at least in my eyes. So
that's fair. Yeah.
We'll see how that goes with Drew Smyly, for instance, because pitchers are more difficult because are you comparing him to other 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s? Where are you stacking him in? Are you just comparing him to any starting pitcher, or are you comparing him to other 4s? or other ones,
Right.
you know? So that's where it gets a little tricky.
I think for Steele, I would have to keep the context in mind.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is a guy who started last year coming in long relief, starting now, first time making this many starts at the major league level, and like his overall performance. Like, I feel like you have to keep that in mind. But yeah, you know, obviously he wasn't as good as Justin Verlander, right? Like, so, you know,
Well,
if
he
you're
was
comparing
yesterday.
the two, he could have done that. Yeah, he would have done better than that.
Patrick Wisdom, who wants to go first? You want to just start that way, Cody,
Let's
and
do
we'll
Sure.
work our way this way with
Mine,
the grades?
after seeing what you guys put in Slack, I think mine are a little bit nicer than you guys. So I guess we can start with me and we can go off that. So I'm giving Patrick Wisdom C+ on offense and C+ on defense, and then a B- overall. And
Still trying to figure out how that averages out.
X Factor.
Yeah.
It's the hair or whatever it is. He's
I mean,
knob.
the vibes,
The big knob.
The biggest knob on
he's
the
got
team.
good vibes that run around, circling second to go into third, pulling the jersey down on a homer and doing the high five thing with Willie Harris. It does create great vibes. And he does make the City Connect jersey look awesome. So
True.
that factors in. But so on offense, I think people who listen to this show and don't like Patrick Wisdom probably think that I am the biggest Patrick Wisdom stan. And I'm not the biggest Patrick Wisdom stan. I'm here to tell you this. I'm not. But I think he is exactly he has surpassed any expectation that anyone ever had of the guy since the moment he made his Cubs debut in 2021. Well, I guess he debuted in 2020, but in a game or something. But they picked him back up, and we all know what happened. Okay, so Patrick Wisdom on offense, yes, he strikes out a lot, but he's one of the few players on this team that has power. And to me, compared to his numbers last year in 2021, he played better. He didn't hit as many homers, but the strikeout rate came down compared to last year. And I think that he improved as a hitter. Not just because he cut down on the strikeouts, but I think he was able to adjust to what the league had adjusted to him. Because if he didn't, then he's probably striking out 40% of the time still, right? On defense, yeah, I think, the defensive metrics don't look great on him this past year, but I do like the versatility. He played third. He played first base. He played left and right field. I think that's value, and I think that he's coming into the year defensively, we thought that he was pretty solid, right? Maybe we're a little disappointed with it. Maybe I'm giving him too high of a grade here on defense, but I think the versatility is a good thing. Yeah. And I give him a B- overall because honestly, when I think about Patrick Wisdom, I think about a guy like Adam Duvall, who this year was hurt and really didn't do much. But Adam Duvall is the most average baseball player on the Atlanta Braves. And you know what? When they won the World Series last year, everyone's talking about Freeman and all these other guys, but they needed other guys too. And Adam Duvall, you look at his numbers in 2021, he hit 38 homers and had 113 RBIs and had a 2.7 F4. This year, again, hurt, only 86 games and has a 0.9 F4 for 2022. And again, those numbers don't really mean anything. All I'm saying is he just reminds me of someone like Adam Duvall, who is a great role player on a good team. So if you can fix this roster and you still have a guy like Patrick Wisdom, who you're barely paying any money to, and getting the defensive versatility on top of the power, and he's going to strike out some, but who isn't in the year of our Lord 2022? I think you got yourself a really solid role player for really, really freaking cheap. So to me, to be able to have that kind of value, that's why I put him at B-.
Okay.
Fair enough. All right.
Fair.
Corey's up.
The first real grade for Mr. Friedman.
I'm pretty similar. I think I had him at a C+
Right here.
on offense, C- on defense. I went C+. Listening to Cody, I think I could be talked into a B- too.
Whoa.
I think
let's go.
I ended up and I don't know, that's a passing grade. That's what I was trying to think of. It felt maybe harsh, C+, but I was disappointed in the season from Patrick relative to what he did in 2021. Yeah. I agree with Cody entirely, right? That and I've said this many times, that he's a great role player, and a guy that has that kind of pop is really valuable. as a bench piece, as a platoon guy, as a spot start. And we saw him, at the end of the season here in 2022, he was making like some nice plays in right field or wherever David Ross was sticking him, which isn't easy to do. But I think I moved it down because his defense was just so disappointing.
Yeah.
He was really solid at third base in 2021, especially on those weak grounders that you charge in on. Very similar, not positioned the way that Chris Bryant fielded the ball to win the World Series, but that kind of ball where you're charging in, fielding it bare hand or whatever, and making that throw. He did that so cleanly, and he just rated so negatively this year. It was almost weird at times watching him kind of mess up some of those plays. Yeah. But still like a 104 WRC plus, slightly above league average. So I know some people don't like that kind of game, but he's sort of indicative of a lot of players at this point in the league. Yeah. Strikes out a lot, has a lot of power, doesn't hit for average. But when you look at the rest of the league, like that still shakes out to be an above average player, like offensive production wise. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty close with Cody. Cody had me thinking maybe I would bump that up to a B minus. C plus feels harsh because of everything that Cody said. Like he's not paid a lot of money. He's not someone that you're looking to be the star of your order or the middle of the order, leader. He's a valuable bench piece that has a lot of pop. And he proved for a guy that did come into the league with a huge strikeout rate, 2 years in a row, he's an above league average hitter. To what degree, it's obviously differed, but the fact that he can do that consistently for 2 years in a row, that's valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. I was definitely a little harsher on Patrick Wisdom than you both were for my report card.
Let's hear why, Ryan.
Well, there it is. All right. Now it's on the screen. All right. So offense, I gave him a C plus. Kind of in the same vein. Cody's like barely above league average. C plus is barely above like an average grade. We know he has a ton of pop. And like Cody said, he's one of the few guys on this team that does, which is valuable. And, I mean, you look at some of the percentile rankings, his, max exit velocity, 86th percentile, hard hit rate, 82nd percentile, average exit velocity, 81st. Like, those are very good power numbers. He just doesn't hit the ball enough to always take advantage of that. His strikeout rate was actually the highest in the league.
It was.
Yeah. His whiff rate was number 2, which is like just ahead of Javier Baez, actually. So he doesn't hit the ball enough to, when he hits it, like he had 25, 26 home runs this year. When he hits it hard and provides the pop that I know Jed Hoyer was talking about on Monday. They didn't have the ability to hit home runs and put runs together in bunches this year. Wisdom provided that when he hit the ball, it just didn't do it enough. Yeah. 104 WRC plus. I give value to, of course, he's not a star. He's not a superstar player. He's not paid a lot of money. So that the fact that he did what he did while being paid pennies is okay. I bumped him up to a C plus for that. He's 104 WRC plus. Okay, barely above league average. Defense was very, very disappointing. I agree with Corey. Like compared to what he did last year, it felt like if a ball was going to third base, he'd get that, throw it over the first. Like it always felt like that's a sure out. That was not this year. At third base, which was, again, his position, the position he was supposed to be manning all year, which he did, 903 innings. He had -6 defensive runs saved and -11 outs above average. So I guess technically 11 outs below average, right? It just wasn't good. First base, he played 115 innings. Like that's a position I guess people are talking about having him and Matt Mervis in as like a platoon next year if that happens. I think you're okay with that, but even then, it's like he played 115 innings, had -2 outs above average. Like I don't know how the amount of innings plays into that kind of average, but also wasn't good. Outfield, he wasn't really. I mean, he played left and right and center actually this year too. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that one game.
Yeah, but overall, it's outfield -5 defensive runs saved, -2 outs above average. Like it just wasn't a good defensive year for him. I can't. I think D plus fits for me just because of what we expected out of him coming out of last year. He was really good at third base. And even the eye test, like you don't look at it and you're like, oh, that's not a bad defender. But then you look at the stats and the metrics and it's just like, what happened. Like he was a bad defender this year, and you hope that he kind of turns some things around. I don't know what affected it and how he can fix it, but you hope he does that next year, whatever position they have him in, because he is a good role player and should play good defense. D+ is just where it was for me. It wasn't the worst defense ever. It just wasn't even average to me. It was bad.
Because I see it in the chat from our friend Michael Collada, I do just want to say to that point, good player, he says, good player for a bad team. This is something I think we talked about even earlier in the season, before remember that series like in Colorado where the chat was like ready to kill him?
Everyone was done with him 2 weeks into the season.
Oh, yeah.
I only bring this up because I see this a lot with Wisdom, and I don't agree with it. And I think it's something that a lot of people seem to think about Patrick Wisdom, and I just feel like it's a good point as we're having this discussion and like deciding where to grade him. This type of player is useful, as Cody said, comparing him to Adam Duvall on a good team, right? Maybe you don't want Patrick Wisdom starting 150 games at third base for a good team, but a guy that can be an above league average hitter. He's got 53 homers in like 240 games as a Cub. Like, you need power like that.
Yeah.
And you look at, playoff games and things like that. Maybe you wouldn't start him, but you bring him off the bench. I mean, look at how the Cub, even if you go back to 2016, Cubs got huge hits from guys coming off the bench. You need guys that have that power and can show up in one at bat only, and make a difference, right? Like, and not everybody can do that. Like, you see a lot of teams that don't have the ability. I mean, look across town at the White Sox. They didn't have, did anybody hit 20 home runs, right? I think all year.
No.
You need that power. You need guys that have power.
We did. We tried to give him wisdom.
He offered wisdom.
You did
multiple times.
Yeah. And
so
half, right?
I just, as we're grading it, I think that's a relevant point. Like, it's not always about, like, thinking these guys are stars or building the team around them, but you need depth players, you need role players. They're important.
That's kind of how I looked at it.
But that's not how I'm grading him for this exercise. I'm grading him on who he was for this team and who he was expected to be for this team.
Yeah.
Do I think his value could be better in another role? Yes. But I do agree with what's being said in the chat and what you guys have been saying about the financial. Now, I didn't put that with Steele and Nico, and I didn't factor in finances. I don't know why I didn't, but because it really stands out for Wisdom. You're getting some home runs for cheap. Like, you're not paying anything for the guy. So for what, I guess maybe sometimes I will factor it in and sometimes I won't. In this case, I factored in. I don't agree with the good player, bad team. I will say average to below average player for a good team. He might be a good player for a great team in a different role.
Yeah.
You're looking at, like, for this particular one, I'm going offense C. And I looked at it and I thought, all right, if he stayed healthy, he would have struck out 200 times. His strikeout ratio was the worst in baseball. He would have struck out 200 times. People would have been furious. Then I look at it and I'm like, all right, but he also hit 25 home runs in 134 games. That's less than what he averaged in 21. His slugging percentage was down from 21. His OPS was down. His OPS plus. Everything was lower. And the one thing that was up, strikeout rate. So that was one of the things that we really wanted to grade him on this season. Could he find a way to provide the pop and cut back on the strikeouts just a little bit? If he does that, we weren't even talking about defense. But then the defense regressed too. So when I look at Wisdom and I think, all right, offense, I'll give him a C just because he hits home runs and nobody else on a team is hitting home runs, and he does it fairly inexpensively.
Yeah.
Defense, we've all said it. He was below average. I think I'm being pretty fair and maybe a little optimistic to give him a C- this year. His defense might have been worse than that. So overall, I'll say he is a major league player. I do believe that. I just don't believe he is an everyday major league player, which is what the Cubs wanted him to be this year. So I can't give him a C, but I'll give him a C- and say he is a major league player. This team just doesn't quite have him in the correct role yet if they're going to put him there. So I'll go C-, because he's just a little bit below your average to below average major league player, but in the right role, maybe he can find something. So I think we're pretty much in there, right? We're like, we're somewhere.
Yeah, what did you, B?
I said
B
B minus.
Yeah,
but B minus to a C minus is the scale where he should be in.
Yeah, and I can comfortably say that the way I graded it was based off what I like envision him on a good team, more so than like just his general performance on this year's team. But that's the thing, like some guys you can envision what they can bring to a team if they have the right pieces around them. I think there's other guys that you can say that about too. That's not like you can't say that about guys like Nico Horner or Justin Steele. Those guys were clearly the best pitcher and best position player we had this year, and they just showed out at their positions. And they would have they probably would have had even better numbers if they were on a good team. That's kind of the way I look at it with Patrick Wisdom is like if you have a good lineup, you got Mash Mervis and Brennan Davis in there, and you got their projections on top of a free agent that the Cubs bring in, and then you got, Horner and Happ and, whoever else. I think Patrick Wisdom, I think his numbers would get better based off the lineup. And the Cubs asked him to be like a difference maker in the middle of the lineup this year. And that's just a lot to ask for a guy who was 30 years old and is technically in his second year in the majors. And honestly, to me, I felt like he lived up to any expectations that we had for him at all. And my expectation for him was to cut down the strikeouts and continue to hit homers. That's all I ever wanted from him.
But there's no question that finances and role play a big deal in specifically Wisdom's grade. I think it factors in other guys, but we grade him between a B minus and a C minus. If he was making $23 million a year or $25 million a year, your grade would be an F. Right? We'd all be like F.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you were saying he's got to lead the team in this, F. Right. Now, if you change his role and keep him at the same pay, maybe that grade goes up. Now, Michael Collada's saying, I don't want to bring him off the bench for a strikeout. Yeah, but at a time where maybe you just need some power from one at bat and you know that the alternative could be a strike, it's a boom or bust.
You're doing that on purpose.
I get that. Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't think his role is a huge role on a good team, but that doesn't mean he couldn't give you a huge at bat on a really good to great team.
And I think a lot about the ideal situation for Wisdom being sort of how his time with the Cubs started, right? Like that, when he first came up in 2021, everyone was still here. That was a team that was still competing and either in first place or close to first base.
He carried that team in the first part of June last year.
And so, you had guys that were in a slump or struggling. He showed up, and, I'm sure he wasn't hitting fourth. I don't remember, right? But with Rizzo and Bryant and Baez still there, Jock Peterson, he came in and he provided pop for a period of time when the team was still trying to compete. And sometimes you need that, right? The rest of the offense is slumping. Here comes this guy that's hitting a home run every series that's helping your offense stay afloat. That, I think, is the role for him. He's not starting at third base over Chris Bryant in that scenario, but he's coming in, providing some pop, and then when the offense gets going, maybe he's not playing every day.
He's very similar to what the Cubs tried with Mike Olt at third base. In that he was a highly thought of prospect that didn't make it. Has he done more than Mike Olt?
I would say so.
Absolutely.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Has he done enough to be your everyday third baseman? No, he has not.
He
just has not.
All I will say, whenever, because multiple people just keep pointing out the strikeouts, and this is one of the few times that I'm with you, David Snyder. Javi Baez was someone that is literally all he did if he didn't hit the ball was strike out. And I think you can argue that Wisdom in a way is taking over that role in a way, but you're not paying him anything. And to me that value shows.
David, I'm not saying would I rather have Baez. No, because I know that's why I'm saying the finances and the role have a huge impact on what the grades are for this guy. If he was making if he was making Javi Baez money and he struck out more, his strikeout rate was higher than anybody in baseball, and he struck out 200 times, and his defense was bad, well, it'd be a horrible signing, but that's not who he is. If I'm just comparing him to the rest of Major League Baseball, he's an average to below average player, but he is a major league player. So I went C-.
If they signed Carlos Correa and he put up those numbers, it would be a different conversation.
We would all
than
love
Patrick Wisdom.
We would all love Patrick Wisdom if he put up similar numbers to this, and the Cubs have someone like Carlos Correa playing third base with Nico at short or whatever.
And he plays better third. Yeah. When he comes in, I agree that playing multiple positions may have impacted his third base.
And also, like, on the strikeouts thing, like, that's where the league is, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can go look at, like, Kyle Schwarber's numbers. He strikes out 30% of the time, but, like, he also is hitting 50 home runs.
Which is different from what Wisdom is doing.
Right, and even, like, Anthony Rizzo isn't hitting for as high of an average as he used to, but when you look at, and this is why I always use WRC+, because it just relates it to the rest of the league. Yeah. The rest of the league is not hitting for average like they did however many years ago. The rest of the league is striking out more. You have guys coming out of everybody's bullpen throwing 102-mile-an-hour, sinkers with movement and stuff like that. It's crazy. So everybody strikes out. That's what I'm saying. Like, strikeouts, they're not great, but, like, the league strikes out a lot. That's where the game is.
If you were looking at it from, like, a 2005 lens, like, his offense would be an F because he's striking out so much and hitting for such low batting average. But
he's
game has changed.
He's not bunting enough.
Yeah, the game has changed so much that you understand how to better put strikeouts and batting average and home runs and all that stuff into better context, which I agree. WRC plus is, like, the stat for that. That's what I'm saying. It's 104 WRC plus. Slightly above average. Yeah. That's why I gave the C+.
All those things factor in. The money, like I've said, all of it. My final grade, C- is just the eye test. Do I look at him and think he's a great major league player? No. Do I think he's a B? No. Do I think I think he's about a C-. Like, there's value. There's some value there. I'm just saying it's not above average. Like, it's a passing grade. It's just not above average.
Cody made a good point. I know we have to do Smyly, but he also made a good point. You have to factor into your grade, like, nobody wears an unbuttoned jersey.
Well, that's true.
The way that Patrick Wisdom does. How much do you count that in? Like, I don't know.
He almost shows you a little nipple when he hits a home run. He goes around third base.
Nobody wears a jersey
almost a little
like
nip
that.
there. There's almost. Cody, what's your points bet pick of the week?
Well, tonight, or here, we'll do the Bears. Bears Thursday night.
Oh, yeah, please.
It's pretty even. I think I took Bears money line minus 107. It's even. Like, and honestly, like, if you want to put your money on Carson Wentz, sorry, Steven, I know you're a Carson Wentz guy, then, like, good luck to you. I mean, after how Fields played in the second half on Sunday, I'm feeling pretty good about the Chicago Bears. So I'm ready to be hurt again. But also, like, I think they're taking in some momentum into this Thursday night game at home. So I'm taking Bears money line. I like it. I think they got the better run game, and I think their defense is better than what...
They're better than Washington's offense.
Yeah. I think their defense is good enough to keep them in the game. I mean, they got shredded by Justin Jefferson in that first half, but then somehow, some way, found a way to get multiple stops against that offense in the second half. So against Washington, against Carson Wentz, Bears money line, baby. Let's go.
All right, so now we go to Drew Smyly. Guy was brought in the offseason. And I think the number one overall thing about him, Cody, as we start, is if he would have stayed healthy, again, the grades would be very different than what they might be. Like, I'm not asking anybody to grade anything. I'm just saying, in general, we all would have liked to have seen him pitch more.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and show mine here, Steven. I'm going with results. I'm giving a B- and stuff adjustments, B-, and then overall B. Delmetrics there once again, because if I put two B minuses, that equals a B to me. I put B- basically because I don't know about you guys, but I don't think anyone expected Drew Smyly to really be much of anything on this team this year. My expectations for him were perhaps a spot starter, perhaps a guy who can just eat you some innings. He proved me completely wrong. And I should have had higher expectations because he was on the world champion Atlanta Braves last year. So that's on me. I'll take my L on that. But I thought he got better as the season went along, so that's why the stuff/adjustments is, a B- because the injury in the beginning of the year, and also even in April and May, like he was okay, but he wasn't impressing me like he was impressing me in the second half of the season this year. So my thinking of the B- is that it was lower, but it got better. So I give him a B- there. And then B overall, just because I think he brings a great veteran presence. He's never going to overpower anyone, and he's left-handed pitcher, which to find quality left-handers these days, it's not easy. So I think he has he would be a great start to bring back for the Cubs next year to. Whether it's, be that number 4, number 5 starter in the rotation or, some sort of role kind of like what Keegan Thompson is in, I guess I wouldn't be too upset since he has experience out of the bullpen. But just overall, like a B I think that sums him up. Like he was very solid for the Cubs this year, improved, veterans who have proven it time and time again. They figure it out, whether they start off bad. When you get to the end of the year and you look at the numbers and you're like, wow, that guy really did that well. Okay, good for him. Like, I think there really is a lot of value in having a veteran like him on your team. Again, he's not going to be someone you can lean on to give you 30 starts and shove 7 innings down an opponent's throat in September when you absolutely need a win, but he definitely brings a great veteran presence, and he definitely brings you value, and I thought he did that this year. And, again, for me, I had very low expectations. I thought at best they're trading this guy at the deadline, and maybe they would have if they, if he was healthy, right? But maybe it's a blessing in disguise, right? Like he pitched so well to where it's like, man, you kind of want to bring this guy back. Cubs definitely want to have more depth on the pitching side, especially as a starter. I think that bringing him back is a great idea. So, and that's based off most of his second half performance, but even the first half it was okay. So again, I don't have any numbers for you. Those are your Dell metrics, but I thought he was just very solid.
You can't share your proprietary formula. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Then you wouldn't be the Dell metrics.
Corey knows so well. He just knows so well.
I'm pretty similar. I had results B+ stuff, B overall B+. This is another one where if you're grading it, toward the league versus like expectations and all that other stuff, I think you could go even higher on Smyly if you're not necessarily comparing him to the Justin Verlanders of the world and stuff. But for $5 million, they got 22 starts, over 100 innings, 3.5 ERA. That's really solid. And he was money in the second half too. And, you deal with injury, like sure, but he still gave you 22 starts. And I think at the beginning of the year, you maybe had a different vision for how the rotation would look. Obviously, I think you might have thought that Alzolay and Wade Miley would eat more starts than they did, which ended up being very minimal by the end of the year. And Smyly, you needed someone like that to step up and eat those innings, especially with the late season injuries to Steele, Thompson, Kyle Hendricks missing so much time. Like, you needed guys to fill that role, and obviously you had other guys that did that. But I think those numbers from Drew Smyly for what they paid him and what they maybe were expecting of him, I feel very comfortable in a B+. If you're grading relative to this team and his role, I think I could even be talked into an A-. I mean, 22 starts of 3.5 ERA baseball is not nothing, and I think there was reports recently that the Cubs are pretty interested in bringing him back and
for that
bringing
reason
on a cheap role, and I'm all in on that. Yeah, I mean, if you could book him for this exact same line next year
as your 5,
like 5 or 6, or he's just filling in when guys need time or get hurt, things like that. I'm totally in on that. I've been told before that I have a weird thing for left-handed starting pitchers, so maybe I'm a little biased on Drew Smyly, but these are really solid numbers, and I think too, not only considering the contract, but again, you ended up in a situation where you needed these guys to step up, and so I think when I'm looking at someone like Drew Smyly and eventually Adrian Sampson, I'm giving them a bump because had they not been able to reliably fill those innings, who knows who was going to do it, and you may have had a bunch of 2-inning, 3-inning, just messes of starts that, changes all of the stuff. And, I see Michael's point about the first half, but guys get hurt. If I'm grading pretty much anybody, I don't think, even if I were grading Nick Madrigal, I don't know how much injuries are going to play into things, right? I'm going to grade the amount of games. He's not going to get as much credit because he's not playing as many games, but like I don't usually dog guys for getting hurt. It's not really within their control. So he still made
that's going to be tough though, because
he
like
still
when you
made 22 starts.
When you go to grade Kyle Hendricks, how will you factor in the injuries? You're just going to grade him on the games that he did pitch?
Well, I would grade him on he was supposed to be a top member of your starting rotation, and he only made a certain number of starts. That's not enough value that he was supposed to provide. But I don't know. I've always had like a weird thing. I think this is mostly rooted in how people talked about Chris Bryant, and unfairly, a lot of people, even though Chris Bryant's one of the best players in Chicago Cubs history, would call him soft or things like that.
Right.
And he got hurt a lot, but I really don't like that kind of negative connotation for guys getting hurt. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
They're training very hard, most of them, right? And I just don't like when it veers to that like negative way of, Drew Smyly, 22 starts.
Too.
Right. It's not his fault that he got hurt. I'm going to grade those 22 starts, I guess is the point. So for Hendricks, I don't remember how many starts it was. I would look at those starts and I would say, yeah, that's not enough for what he was being asked to do. So that factors into it.
I'll be honest, my grading rationale for each guy will be different.
Yeah.
I just know it will, because I can't grade them all the same.
Well, yeah, they're all different players and different, different contexts, different situations. I mean, I agree.
It's not like they're taking a test and you're grading if they got the answers right or wrong. Yeah. It's, every player has a different role on a team. And like, again, I gave Drew Smyly a B because he's surpassed any expectation I had on this team.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And tampering's allowed. If you want to send me money to upgrade your report card, I'm available for that. My door is open.
My tips are open on Twitter if you want me to do that as well.
All right,
go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say I'll go.
Twitter or whatever that is.
I gave Smyly B's all around. Results, stuff, adjustments. I mean, yeah, like Corey said, the results was a 22 starts, 3.47 ERA, something like that. I don't know if you could have expected better in that sense. Like Drew Smyly came in. I think with like maybe a couple weeks left in spring training. It was short anyway, but like it was he missed at least the first week of spring training, I want to say. He came to Chicago. He already had a stint, but came here. Didn't know, honestly, at the outset, didn't even know if he was going to be a rotation guy when he first got here. It was still kind of that rotation battle. You didn't know what they were going to do with Smyly. He comes in. I mean, the first half wasn't always great, but it seemed like he was the one guy you could count on to get you through 4 innings every game, which at that point in the season, that was like good for the league. The league was like the pitchers that were consistently getting through 4 or 5 innings, like that was looked as good because these guys hadn't built up so much to give you 6-7 innings every single time. It wasn't always great. The injury, I think he missed all of June with that injury. But he came back. He was great in the second half, and I know Collada's going to keep talking about they didn't play for anything in the second half, and it's a lot easy, and that's a fair statement. Like when you're not playing with playoff pressure on your back, that alleviates a lot of the pressure outside of just what you have on yourself. I will say, I mean, that August he had a sub 1 ERA. It was like 0.90 ERA, something like that. Like he was really, really good. He was putting up quality starts. He was a big part of the reason why the Cubs' second half ERA was the third best in baseball. Like he came out, he went out there, he gave you good starts. Maybe he had a clunker or two in there. Sure, everyone does. But he was going out there giving you 5-6 innings every time. And for a guy that you kind of just brought in, didn't know what you had on him, don't even know if he's going to be around again next year. Like just for a guy that can give you that at like the back end of your rotation, you can't ask for much more than what Drew Smyly gave you. So as far as results, I gave him a B because that just felt right. He wasn't like an A starter. He didn't become like your top of the rotation guy. But he wasn't bad. Like he was I'd say he was above average overall in the season. There were points where, yes, he was bad. But overall in the season, when you average everything out, he was pretty much above average in my opinion.
Yeah. Agreed. We don't have to spend a ton of time on mine because I'm going the same way.
Yeah, when B,
I'm going a little lower. B, I went stuff adjustments because if it is specifically that, stuff and adjustments, I don't know that he made huge adjustments or anything. I would kind of put the health thing in there a little bit. But in reality, Here's a guy, I believe they signed him to flip him.
Yeah.
With an extra year on there, they were like, look, we can get maybe more for this guy. We're going to say he's got playoff experience. The injury came at the wrong time. But for 10 to 12 starts, there was a stretch where he was really good.
Yeah.
And an above average pitcher. And I do like the idea of bringing him back. I like the left-handed part of it. Does he overwhelm batters? No. But that doesn't mean he's not a good pitcher. Overall a B. Now, if you're comparing him to the aces in the league like I did some other guys, that's a different scenario, but they didn't pay big money for him. He might not be a huge piece of the future, but the role they asked him to be in this, if he was healthy, again, I could push that grade up even higher. So I just knock it down just a little bit.
The more we've sat here and talked about him, the more all I can think about is, man, if they would have had him in like 2017 instead of Brett Anderson, like we're sitting here talking about Drew Smyly being like another Theo like hits gold move.
Or what's his name from the Rockies that they kept trying?
Chatwood.
Yeah.
Like that. Like
just
on
never
a
worked
really
out,
good
he had
team,
somebody steady like Drew Smyly.
right? Like
would have worked
on
out.
a really really good team. Drew Smyly could be like those two guys that we just. Well, he'd be better than Brett Anderson, but like he'd be better than Tyler Chatwood. But like in terms of building a team, like you're looking at a guy like Drew Smyly like that, like bottom of the rotation, eats innings, and like is a good veteran presence.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go, what do you guys think about Mervis being minor league player of the year over PCA?
Very much deserved.
Very
he had
much.
a season, pretty much a season you haven't seen since Chris Bryant was in the minor leagues as far as the system goes. PCA had a great year, really blew up. Like his future looks so bright. But Matt Mervis, especially considering he came in, like how many people knew the name Matt Mervis outside of people that follow Cubs prospects? Probably not a ton. And he went from high A to double A to triple A, mashed at every level. Looks like there's definitely a chance he's on the opening day roster. I mean, with 36 home runs, there's like 78 extra base hits, 900-something OPS. Like he just had a great year. I know I've heard that there's maybe some concerns about his ability at first base. But for a minor leaguer still developing like this was very well deserved as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's exciting that, because you read the stuff from like Jed about how interested they were in him. And I think he said they called him minutes.
4 seconds.
Right after
that
availability came because he was their number one guy. They wanted him bad. He made adjustments to start this year, and it really pays off. I mean, that's the stuff as a fan, like you want to read that stuff, right? Like the organization loved this guy. They had kind of a vision for how it would work, and here he is, your minor league, hitter of the year. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. That seems like a good thing for the organization.
He'll be 25 in April, by the way. Michael Collada's asking. 25 on April 16th.
And for the defense, I mean, once Rizzo opts out, he'll teach him how to play.
Right. Yeah,
it's kind of the way I think about it, right? Mervis, the way his insane minor league season this year overshadowing Alexander Canario and PCA. And when we're talking about a minor league system that has emerged as a top 10 in baseball, that's not me talking. Those are the facts via MLB Pipeline and Fangraphs. So Delmetrics for you too.
And FAX as well.
Yeah, facts. All right.
Facts.
I'm excited, man. I need Matt Mervis on this opening day roster next season. I need it. Like I don't do this shit you did with Chris Bryant. Don't you do it, Jed. Don't do it. Just put him on the opening day roster and let's see it. Like I need it.
Well, maybe it's like Mike Olt. He just needs a couple more days to work on his defense.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
a couple more days.
You know what would really like earn some trust back, perhaps, in the Cubs front office and ownership is if they do like what the White Sox did with some of their guys before they even really played. Like I think him or Brennan Davis would be a great prime candidate to extend now. If they see them as that, like Brennan Davis is a top 50 prospect. We've seen what he can do. He would have been on this team in July or August, whatever, if that injury didn't happen. Matt Mervis, 25 years old. Like I don't see any reason why you wouldn't at least try and have that conversation with one of those. I think that would put that would bring a lot of trust back into the organization from the fan base, at least. If you show that in one of your young guys, because that's like the big thing why people are still mad about what happened at the end of the Golden Era, because none of those guys, except for Kyle Hendricks, was able to get an extension. So I think that would be.
And David Bodie.
Oh, shut up, Corey. I think that would be a great move. Now, it should not be number one priority. I'm just saying that it would be something that I think would get the fan base back in on trusting them a little bit more, because I think that really is the big thing about a lot of the slander.
He said they were working on it.
Said they've taken kind of the first steps on some of those things. Didn't really get into specifics on who it is. I think you assume Nico's one of those. I said on the show yesterday, 2 days ago, Hat may be in that conversation too, but it could also be minor leaguers that they look at top prospects like, all right, let's lock them up for a a little bit.
Yeah,
could
I
be.
mean,
Could need Jed to give us a hint on who it is.
Mervis isn't like Davis, who's like he's going to be 23, or he was 23 this year. Like he is a little bit older for a minor league player, but you got a guy here just destroyed minor league baseball this year. Wasn't even ranked in any kind of minor league ranking at all, and now he's emerged as a top 10 first base prospect via MLB pipeline, and in the Cubs top 30 of a top 10 minor league farm system. Like that, to me, that I don't care if it is just 1 year. That is mind blowing. I mean, even Jed said it. They'd never seen anything like it. I think you reward a guy like that.
Steven, as a Sox fan, are you all in on those deals that were signed by the White Sox? Or are there any regrets on any of them?
At the time, I liked all of them.
How do you feel now?
Terrible.
Okay, so I mean, it just depends on where you're at in that.
Yeah. I also think, you would hope that, and I know how they've acted in the past couple of years, but the Cubs should be the type of team, and I'm not advocating on Mervis or anyone in particular, but the Cubs should be an organization that should be able to operate in that mindset better than the White Sox, just because of how the White Sox tend to spend money or not spend money. With the way the Cubs should be acting on a yearly basis, they should be able to afford extending younger guys on the cheap, right?
Yeah.
And then even if those moves don't work or they're not great, fine. You're the Chicago Cubs, spend around it. You're trying to find that middle ground. But the White Sox, their problem is that they don't want to spend more money on top of that. When the Cubs have been at the peak, right, 15, 16, 17, they were willing to spend around that stuff.
Right. That's the whole point. Is if you say you extend Nico, and I know we need to get out of here, so I don't want to talk about it too much. Say you extend Nico.
I thought we were doing 2 hours today.
Traffic, Ryan.
He's not commanding a ton of money for the next however many years. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to work out, but even at that point, it's he's not going to bog you down as far as the luxury tax goes. You have plenty of money to play with, even if you extend Nico.
Right.
You guys just pushed this from a 2 hour and 10-minute game to a 3 hour game, and I'm not happy about it. No. Hey, today, Corey was our guest, so to speak. I mean, he's one of us, but he was a guest, right? Tomorrow, another big guest, Joe Madden. Joe Madden, the first 20 minutes. Don't be late to the podcast.
Equal in stature, I think, me and Joe Madden.
As far as
he won't be sitting there, but he's going to be on the screen with us.
He won the 2016 World Series. I went to the game when they won the World
right?
Series. It's...
And we all have one goal tomorrow. Try not to suck.
Try not to suck.
Try not to suck. So I hope you'll join us at 1:20 as we continue the 1:20 podcast. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by PointsBet. Have a great day. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. Joe Madden and more grading of the Cubs players, more report cards. We'll see you then. Until then, fly the W.